Hi everyone, this is Christopher Merrifield. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experience with burnout because of my career crisis. So, years and years ago when I was little, because I used to play computer games like Mega Man, I grew up with this idea that I really wanted to be a computer engineer, something to do with robotics, AI, but certainly computing was my thing. And I grew up in the 80s, so that kind of Nintendo, that kind of time when computer games come out, I was really into this. And so I went through school, and in England we go through usually college to do either A levels or we do some other vocational qualification. And I went through college. I spent 3 years there. I did my diploma in computer studies, so I could program, I could go to work. And then after that I went to university. And the thing is I experienced the millennium bug in 2000, so that was the time anyone who could program, you're earning mega money in the late 90s, so as much as anywhere between 20 and £200 an hour to get this thing sorted. So I saw the real boom when computer guys were earning serious money. And then I went to university, and it was in the UK, it's 3 years long. 2.5 years, the industry crashed, and I have to admit, I was very kind of silly, very immature. I was messing about, and at the time, what happened was that it crashed, and the whole industry just crashed. And that was because India and China, they were upcoming, they had very skilled people, and the industry is being outsourced. So my dream had gone. Everything I had geared my personality around, because over years, I've sort of built myself up that, yeah, I'm the computer guy, I'm the IT guy, I'm the guy who's into this, I repair computers, I program, that's what I'm going to do in the future, I'm going to do these things. And then suddenly I had this identity crisis that from a child, really from about the age of 6, I built up. And so I was in a state of panic. I was like, oh my God, the market is now flooded with all these really high-powered guys. There's me as a guy in his early 20s, and I'm trying to fight against people who've had 20 years experience, master's degrees. They got all these other real-world skills and maturity to offer. And there was me, and all the people I went to university were thinking, how the hell can we compete with them? There's only so many jobs, and is now flooded with all these high-powered guys that were in big companies. I mean, one of them was called Granada Media, that used to do a lot of education tech and stuff to TV stations, and then they're flooded with all these really powerful guys with wonderful CVs. So I'm thinking, what the hell can I do? So I went through this crisis, and this is really when I can say that I got the idea of misconception. So I then thought about, well, what can I do? And at the time, I had a real interest in Chinese language, China. I wanted to go there, and I had lots of friends who were Chinese, and I actually found that I could pick up the language well. So while working in the post office for a minimum wage, and only part-time at that, I met someone who then told me that, you know what, you're good at languages, you're certainly not silly, your English is okay, why didn't you learn to become an English teacher? Now, if you tell a computer nerd or any kind of nerd for a scientific or tech subject that, hey, now go and do something which is very artsy, very much to do with social skills, standing up in front of lots of people and telling them what to do, giving them commands. I was thinking, are you kidding me? This is totally not my identity. But I was in a situation where I thought, you know what, I wouldn't mind, I would love to do that actually. I'd love the adventure. I do have this thing about I can pick up languages relatively well. I mean, I'm already speaking Chinese just about every day for big portions of the day with my friends. And I'm enjoying the culture, and I seem to be able to pick up the understanding, okay, why not? And it was that point where why not that really it was my misconception about who I am and what I could do, my limitations. There was no limitation. I just put my own identity in this tiny narrow box that I can only be a computer nerd. And when I realized and I smashed through this idea, I started to think about myself in different terms. So I used to think about, I quite like being with people. And um, would I be that adverse to trying a totally different environment and culture? Well, not really. And I put that even further, like, well, if I'm okay with a different country, a whole continent, more or less, that's different, then why would my work, personal life, family life, where I live, how I live, necessarily be stuck into this static in this one thing? And so I started to think about myself in flexible, adaptable, transferable skills. And it was then that I really thought, I would go take this course in teaching. I didn't find it that hard. I found it quite easy, to be honest. I made mistakes. Of course, sometimes a little bit embarrassing because we don't care too much in technical documentation sometimes, like we do if you could say you'd majored in English and you'd gone to be an English teacher. So it was a learning curve, but I enjoyed it. I loved the interaction that I eventually had, and I overcame this huge barrier because what I had done is I had created this identity that really didn't need to be there, and it should have been one of many identities. And in fact, it was one of many identities. The thing is that I had let it stay. I had taken it on as that's who I am, when really the whole thing was constructed by me. And once I decided that the whole thing can be broken up, deconstructed, but deconstructed like you would deconstruct Lego. So I break it all up into the pieces, and then I got these different things, these different skills, these different parts about my personality, and I can rebuild that as and when I like. So then I changed my identity from one fixed thing as a computer nerd into it's negotiable. And that really empowered me. And that was where I understood misconception and certainly maladaptation, because maladaptation, again, is I was adapting, I was not adapting, I was getting stressed and all that, and it's all because I put this great big brick, I can say a brick box around me that really, it didn't need to be there. I can smash this up, I can take those bricks again, and I can rebuild whatever I want. And once I learned that, I realized that, hey, you know what? It is negotiable and I don't have to be here stuck. But my burnout experience at the time was terrible because I felt, obviously, I felt my dreams had gone. All the years of defining myself as one particular person, I do this and I am this kind of way, I behave this certain thing, it all had been destroyed. And honestly, it took me about a month to get over it. I went through phases of being very confused, like, well, what am I now? Nerds do not do standing in front of crowds of people and bossing them around, and yet that's what I was faced with. With if you got to change, you got to adapt to the times, or it's gonna be over for you at the ripe old age of 25. You might have no career and no prospects left. And I thought that is never going to be me. There, I can get through this. But it took a major reconstruction of my mind, and yeah, I was confused. I went through countless pieces of paper where I was writing down like this about me, what I want from life, who I am, what I value, what skills I had, and it didn't come from quickly for me anyway. It took a while, and sometimes I was doing it with several cans of beer because I found the process quite stressful, and that's because when you challenge yourself, when you really reflect, you will come against all the false or all the things that you have constructed about yourself. And I want to really hammer this in, that it doesn't have to be that way and you can negotiate who you are. So good luck and don't give up. I went through this major career transition. If you think about like anyone, say from the Big Bang Theory, the IT crowd, you kind of think about, yeah, this is the computer nerdy people. That's exactly how it was. Probably not as smart as any of those characters, but definitely that I'm in my little room, I've got my computer, I'm not very good at socializing with people, and actually I found that all of this was untrue. I could do this as well as be extremely sociable and talk in front of crowds of people. So major change, but it is possible, even for someone like me. And I had constructed that identity from from the very, very young age of 6. And so we should be very aware about how back to our core our identities are and how much we have changed over time and how much we actually do have there in the background, but probably not using it. Hey, thanks for listening to my short story about my experience, and I hope you are doing well.